Recreation and the power of imagination. The recreation process is rooted in the power of imagination. It is beyond reasonable doubt that imagination has the encompassing power to cause recreation. In line with this injunction, what is recreation and how is it related to imagination? From our previous context of discussion, recreation, as we are made to know, is the creation of a new order of existence from a pre-existence, and the ability to accomplish that is rooted in the power of imagination. The term imagination is very powerful and it has an unfathomable uniqueness in man's quest in life, and is such a wonderful means of man having the ability to create a new world for his proposed desires. In the quest to unravel the explanatory mystery that lies between recreation and the power of imagination, we shall be considering the following sub-injunctions from a passive line of thought, which are the poet and the giant have emerged. The poet. I sat down on the couch in a meditational and relaxed mood. As I had my eyes closed, I began to see the dark and empty. As I looked deeper into the depth of the dark, I reminisced on my imagination, capacity, and ability to create my world. I pictured the new world era in my imagination, and my perception took me to the story of Abraham in the biblical history. What did I perceive when I began to see a depth of understanding in line with imagination and recreation? Suddenly, a silent, still voice whispered into my ears and said, God has given me the ability to create my world, and the recreation ability is rooted in my imagination. Can you conceive that? I still was not contented, and my yearning and curiosity took me deeper into the story of Abraham. What was God telling Abraham when he told him to look into the stars and count? Abraham looked and started counting. He counted and counted until he could count no more. What was the interpretation of that injunction? It came to my consciousness that God was working with Abraham's perception of thought, imagination, and the ability to create a new world of his own that will be remembered for many generations. That unique world was in his imagination, which would give him the ability to create. Behold, it was now I caught a true glimpse of what God was telling Abraham and how it had affected my ideology of imagination and recreation. The giants have emerged. What gives a unique quality of a giant and how are giants born? Giants are born on the platform of imagination, and imagination is the bedrock of creativity and manifestation. The empirical sense of argument and line of thought signifies that giants emerge on the platform of creativity. Giants have the ability to create a new world of their proposed desire. In line with this injunction, when one is creative, he emerges a giant and he has the ability to create a world of his own. The line of argument from a passive injunction simply means giants have the following attributes which are being stated in biblical scriptures: subduement, possession, dominion. Subduement. From a biblical injunction, God told man to subdue. In its whole essence, what does the word subduement mean and how has it affected man and his ability to create? To subdue means to conquer and bring to suggestion or bring under control, especially by an extension of force, of will. From the dictionary meaning, man has the ability to bring into subjection his desires, which is poised in his creative ability. The desire under his control and could manifest through his ability to create. That is, man has the control of a new order of existence. The interpretation of this injunction from my passive line of thought is that I can bring forth a new circumstance of life under my control, and the ability is rooted in my imagination, which was a gift given to man by God to compensate him for what is not. Possession. The dictionary meaning of the word possession is to have as belonging to one. That is, man has the possession of his creative ability and he could recreate a new world at his own self-will. The interpretation of that injunction as related to the biblical statement that man should possess the heart was to show the sense of ownership of man's creative ability at his own free will and volition of his choice. God had endowed man with the ability to create his world, and it's man's personal possession. When the word personal comes into it, shows a sense of belonging, and man possesses the creative ability and also belongs to him. Dominion. The concept of dominion had been a topic of debate, as its meaning is a little bit confusing in relation to dominance and possession. But looking from dictionary context, the word dominate means to have power and influence over. From this empirical sense of view, I think I do have the power to create my world, and this power is rooted in my imagination. In line with the above argument and topic of debate, man was endowed with the creation power, which is his imaginative ability. Looking deep in the biblical story of David and Goliath from the context of discussion, Goliath came confronting the Israelites. He was very intimidating and scary because of his weakness and stature. No man could dare confront him, talk less of fighting him, because it could be compared to entering the lion's den. That is, man is in for a calamity and destruction. But of a surprise, a little and young man came out of the bush, coming to confront the Goliath. I began to imagine what came upon the strong spirit, that he had the guts to confront the monstrous Goliath. It was then it came to my subconscious that David had the consciousness of domination, which is the power that gave him a sense of dominion. What eventually transpired in the scene of action. David took 3 small stones and hit these 3 Goliath in the forehead and got the victory. The empirical sense of argument and passive line of thought is that David created his word of victory, which no man could have done in Israel, because he had a sense of dominion and he knew God had given all things to dominate. Giants are creative and they create manifestation, but all this comes after imagination. Imagination works with the mind, and to imagine means to think beyond your present circumstances or world and create a new world out of that. Let me give a passive ideology in line with my injunction. You paint a mental sketch of your desires and pictures. The image of the instance now exists as a mental picture in the brain. The interpretation of that injunction that man becomes a product of his mental phenomenon, as he has the ability to create a new world based on his mental phenomenon. And the truth is that he knows no limitation, because imagination works within the cycle of no limitation. Imagination gives the ability to create a new world, and it is an attribute of the giant in the true essence of reality.